Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast. My name's Jacob, joined as always by Carver. How's it going, man? How you doing?
I'm good. Our fall remains very busy, as people have probably imagined. So we haven't been as consistent as we usually would like to be with episodes. But as things slow down in the next month, I'll have a lot more time. And I know the city season will end for you as well. So we'll have some more regular shows again and live streams and some fun content. But this is what we got right now. And still happy to be a Dortmund fan at the moment where, it's a little disappointing to not beat Leipzig, of course, as always. But other than that, things are still looking pretty positive.
Yeah,
How are you?
maybe this is the cadence we need to stick on just every few matches to see if Dortmund can keep the trend going. But yeah, I'm doing good. It has been really busy. Carver and I were texting to try to get this episode sorted and scheduled, and we both kind of Carver said something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, man, I've been so busy." I was like, "It's not just you, man. I haven't been able to do it either. So don't blame Carver. It's me. It's all my fault." But I did on the last episode we did, which was a couple weeks ago now. I was like, "We'll be back, but I don't want to promise when." It's a good thing I didn't say we'll be back next week because yeah, it's been a couple. But Dortmund are flying, so it's like you said, good time to be a Dortmund fan still. Undefeated so far through the season. I guess we had the first game. Obviously, that one seemed a little disappointing. It was disappointing given that, but that draw away at FC St. Pauli to start the season. We've had the draw at Juventus, and then now the draw with Leipzig is the only real downers. Besides that, it's been all wins. So we've just been cranking through with points, and yeah, still undefeated feels real nice.
Yeah, first time in 4 years that Dortmund have gotten four clean sheets in the row in the Bundesliga. Dortmund are looking nothing really extraordinary, at least across all cylinders for these last few games, but we are effective. We are strong defensively, and it's the best start to a season that we've had in the last 8 years now as well. So there's definitely some positive takeaways on both sides of the ball and a few different departments here for these past few games and just to start to the season in general.
Yeah, it feels like there's still another level we can get to. Like it's been pretty solid, but it feels
Sure.
like we definitely still room for improvement. And I mean, I know it's the last few games since we've recorded are Mainz, the Champions League match against Athletic Club, and then of course RB Leipzig over the weekend. So we're gonna hit on all of them. Maybe not get too in depth on any of the matches, but kind of just some general thoughts. And I mean, something I've been noticing. One, like yeah, it's trending positive. Things are looking good. Even though the Leipzig match, although like I feel like a draw was a pretty good result. That's just a match we lose last year pre Kovac easy. Like there's just a difference in this team, and I think there's still room to improve. And I'm even like looking at the subs we can make, and I know there's still in some areas like we could improve or definitely get some more bodies in. But I'm thinking like in the center back department now we have Schlotterbeck, and like remember how great Anselmino was, and we haven't even seen him or really had to see him. And I don't want to jinx. I don't want to ruin it, but it just seems like things are looking pretty well. I think Fabio Silva is a good addition. I think maybe we could use a little more up top, but I mean that kind of changes with all the attacking midfielder options we seem to have now. It's like that we're tweaking these styles throughout the game, and that's like affecting who we're playing up top and with that. So it is like an interesting and fun Dortmund to watch, and it seems like we have a lot of options. Even like the rise of Couto this season has been great too.
Yeah, and just to touch on or piggyback on a few things that you've mentioned, for Mainz, Fabio Silva comes on. He could have had probably an assist in that game. It was a nice ball by Kobel to set up the red card eventually with the run from Adeyemi. There's some really nice plays here throughout the spread of the game, but in general against Mainz on the road, we've been struggling these past few fixtures against them, but this was a very disciplined performance, very similar to the Leipzig game, again, barring the result. I think in a year's past, we definitely leave there with 0 points and some things to take away from that we've had concerns of in the past. But yeah, very disciplined and just further proved again how defensively strong we were to keep a clean sheet against Mainz that have proved to have been pretty effective so far in this season so far. But yeah, all in all, very building on the consistency that Kovac has talked about before, and great result against Mainz to set ourselves up here in some midweek football against Bilbao, which was the first ever meeting between the two sides there. And Dortmund, going into that game, have only lost one of their last 18 home Champions League games as well. So it's really setting ourselves up here with just the history that we have in the Champions League at home, but also going into that game with some confidence as well from the game against Mainz.
Yeah, and in just jumping back into Mainz a little bit, and I know Brandt got his goal against Bilbao as well, but in this game, like talking about that forward line and where we've been seeing primarily it's Adeyemi, Bayer, and Guirassy starting up top, which gives me a little hesitation because then I'm like, well, who do you sub on? But that's where we see in this Mainz match, Guirassy has to, I think it was during warmups or he felt something where he couldn't start the match. So we have the late change with Brandt coming on. And as I mentioned, like we have these attacking midfielder options that change how our front three looks. And this is a great example of that and still being very effective. Brandt, I think, has looked pretty solid most of the games. He's not starting, but when called upon and him coming off the bench has been pretty good. And this match, especially where he just kind of takes control and gets the 2 assists to lead us into victory with. I know as we're talking about the attacking line, like Couto gets a goal in the Leipzig game. Svensson gets the first goal in this game against Mainz. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes to show that, albeit Bayer was a little bit more quiet. He's very rarely playing as the sole striker. We do have options to play whenever Guirassy is not available, and Silva, of course, can be an option to start as well. I don't think Brandt has really been that great at all, but this is a game that he did show his quality in terms of just getting the ball off of his feet really quick, his vision, his precision at times, and he was able to pick out a few passes that eventually obviously led to goals and got 2 assists that game. Svensson scored not only in the Mainz game, but also the Bilbao one as well. And you see some, with your pattern recognition, you're seeing some goals repeat itself in these few games with the overlapping runs, with the overloads out wide, the run starting wide and coming middle towards the end. You saw a handful of goals from like that from the team in general, but especially from Svensson and Couto these past few games. So yeah, credit to the team for, again, just getting a result on the road against a very tough team.
Yeah. And I do want to jump into the Bilbao match, which we hit on a little bit, but starting with the starting 11, because now we see a bit of rotation and changing around. Kobel in goal. Sula is back and gets a start in this match at center back along with Anton and Benzabaini. Makes sense that Schlotterbeck, I think that was coming off his first start where he played 90 minutes, which we weren't really expecting. So definitely deserves some rest there. But yeah, good to have Sula back as an option. Anton, as I said, Benzabaini. Then across the midfield, Rierson, right wing back with Sabitzer, and Joe Bellingham gets a start in the middle. Then Svensson, who just keeps playing nonstop forever on the left side. Adeyemi, Chukwuemeka, and Guirassy are the 3 up top. So again, another change. Bayer comes off, Chukwuemeka comes in and has a goal in that match. And I know we haven't seen a ton of him yet, but again, it's just another good option to bring on when we need him.
Yeah, lots of rotation, like you mentioned. Sula, this is his first competitive game this season. He has not played another minute since the friendly back in August against Juventus. So several months he's been out, and he came in and was actually able to surprisingly generate a few shots this game, and even a shot on target, actually, if I'm not mistaken here. But Kovac didn't want to risk injury with Schlotterbeck coming back. He was out for a long time, of course, as well. And then to, play 90 minutes is a big ask. And he was able to, rest him, but also still get a result in the Champions League against Bilbao, which is very positive here. First start for Joe Bellingham in the Champions League, and we can talk about him. I think Sabitzer, too, he gets to start here and kind of the unsung hero these past few games, constantly running, staying involved, pressing when against the ball. His timing has been pretty spot on. And in general, a pretty solid performance from him. Yeah, so lots of rotation in this game and was still able to get a very solid result. Chukwuemeka getting on the board again.
I did pull up the Athletic Club Bilbao because I think they are like a pretty historic club. Like they have a lot of, I don't know, it's just a club that I feel like I've known about forever. I don't know much about them, but I know they've just always been around. They haven't had a great season. I don't even know if they've, I guess they just won a few days ago. I think that's their first league win, beating Mallorca over the weekend. Besides that, it's been mainly losses, 1 draw against Girona. So they haven't been a great team, right? But they did get into the Champions League. So they at least had a great season last year. So yeah, maybe an opponent like we go in expecting to beat, but I think the manner in which we did so, like being able to score 4 goals, I know it's at home, but like it's just getting like taking care of business, right? And getting, I don't know any other cheesy phrases I can say, taking care of business, getting the job done. It's just a good day out for Dortmund, especially in the Champions League. Like you always love a performance like that. I know last year our first home performance in the Champions League was the Celtic one where we scored, I think it was 7 in the Adeyemi hat trick. So just getting the Champions League campaign started at home in good fashion, even if it is a lesser side, if you will, with Athletic Club this year. Like I'm really happy, and I think that can give us just a lot of confidence moving forward in this competition.
Yeah, in the first half, Dortmund controlled the game very well, and again another overlapping run and overload on the left side for Svensson to come in and score the goal. Kovac actually mentioned post game that he has been training those in the training sessions lately and is getting his wingbacks a little bit more involved. At the second half, you could argue Dortmund were a bit more passive. Bilbao wanted to build on the pressure, obviously, and try to stay in the game. But in general, we still were able to keep our foot on the gas. And we got a little fortunate with some deflections here and there. And, it was a little nervy whenever Bilbao did score the goal. It was kind of like a miscommunication there between Sula and Anton and a bit of a missed clearance. But, it's an unfortunate way to concede, but those moments have been far and few between under Kovac. I think in these past few years under countless managers, those goals happen a lot more on a regular basis. There's not enough clarity with the back line and the midfield. There's miscommunications. And, whenever you see those as isolated incidents, you can, chalk it up to something being like that a bit more unfortunate. But when it was on such a consistent basis, you kind of have to start looking at the coach and the coaching staff. And I think you've seen a lot of those be neutralized or minimized under Kovac so far, which has been very positive for games like this. Whenever at times you see, even under Kovac, things can slip away like at Juventus, but he's someone that has really learned with a result like that and made sure that, that doesn't happen again. And I think that really showed here at this Bilbao game.
Yeah. And then I know you talked about him a little bit earlier, but coming into this episode, I kind of wanted to, as we're looking at things in general, like some standout players. We mentioned Sabitzer, and I think I even talked about him a bit in the last episode we did, but that was a couple weeks ago, and we might have new people listening. So I would love to give Sabitzer some more praise because I do think he's been such a really solid player for us. He's obviously pretty much maintained that starting spot. I think he was only on the bench in the Heidenheim match. And besides that, he's been starting and contributing and just like kind of a solid anchor in that midfield. And I don't know if a ton of people expected it much coming off of last season, but we've talked before about he might have been going through some personal stuff last year, which might have affected his on-field performance. And just the fact that he is like getting older, like he's 31 now. Did not expect this from Sabitzer after last year. I kind of just wrote him off and didn't think I thought they might ship him off over the summer. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of players I thought we were going to ship off that we still have here, but he's been
large weight to offload.
But I feel like he's maybe been one most important player, one of the most important players. Maybe not most important because maybe Guirassy still holds that right now, but he's been so reliable.
He's been up there, yeah. And just in the Bilbao game alone, he covered 7 miles. 5.6 of those he was running. Had 7 sprints, won a lot of ground duels, completed, 90% of his passes as well. So against the ball, with the ball, very, very involved, and just looked like his old self out there. So really credit to him for remaining a consistent part of this team and continuing to stabilize our midfield because yes, Job, he's got some learning to do. He's got some growing to do. And we could talk about some moments he had in this game, but you have players of Sabitzer's quality to come in and, fight for his spot. And I think that breeds some healthy competition and is able to really make our midfield very solid again because Dortmund has had a midfield that's been close to non-existent for quite some time now. And this system, this 8-8 pivot between him and Mecha, it's been starting to become a very consistent force in both Europe and domestic competitions.
Yeah. And I mean, you throw Gross into that mix too, who I think makes more sense that we see Gross come on as this just a later sub in most matches, but he brings so much experience, right? And he played in the Premier League for so many years. Like he's just a very experienced player. And to have him, I think we saw him get way more minutes last year than we even anticipated, because he was even coming in and playing at a right back at times because we were so short on
Left back
bodies.
too, yeah.
And just like all over the place. And I said Sabitzer was 31, like Gross is 34, maybe 35. Like he's up there even more. But I think him and Sabitzer, with their experience that they have, and you can throw Brandt into that mix a little bit if you want. Some people might not agree, but those guys to play alongside these younger guys like Job and Mecha, who we're seeing a lot out of right now. Like I've really liked Mecha recently too, and especially that Sabitzer and Mecha pairing in the middle of the park. But I think a lot of people, we talked about Job a lot last week, and maybe a little bit underwhelmed, and like he hasn't been getting the minutes, but at the same time he's still so young, and like he needs to earn it, and he needs to, like, when he comes on, like show what he's got. And that just might take some time, and it might take some time to adjust, which is totally fine, because again, pretty locked down with Sabitzer and Mecha right now, and he is still so young. So I'm not too concerned at this point. I think what we talked about, the price tag and everything, like we want to see a little more productivity, but I think he's in a really good spot to learn from kind of the foundation that we have there.
Yeah, and the moments that I saw from Job, just some positive things. He's able to use his body. He's got a 6'3" frame in him, so he's able to shield away, to retain the ball. He had a few good moments of counter pressing. He had, I think, in both games here, he was able to get himself on a really good position to score. He's just narrowly missing these shots to what could have been, our second or third goal, depending on which game you're looking at. So those will fall as he continues to acclimate himself, as he grows in confidence, as he just develops as a player and as a person as well. And he's going to get himself actually involved with those goal contributions. It's just going to take some time, and that's where Sabitzer can come in here. But all in all, this was a Bilbao and Mainz, surprisingly, pretty comfortable wins. Just like we said last time in the last episode, Dortmund are, for lack of a better term, kind of cruising at the moment. And Leipzig, there was some more trouble there, some more problems that we'll talk about. But against some really solid opponents, teams of pretty high quality, Dortmund were able to get the job done, and not the prettiest of manners by any means, but again, effective, strong defensively, and tactically disciplined enough to keep the opponent at bay for the most part and get these good wins.
Yep. So let's jump into Leipzig and the lineup on the weekend. Kobel in goal, Anton, Schlotterbeck, and Benzabaini. Our center backs, Kuto wing back with Sabitzer and Mecha in the middle, and Svensson, the left side wing back, Adeyemi, Bayer, and Girassi up top. So pretty similar to what we've been seeing in most of the matches throughout.
Yeah, and both teams come into this with a 4-game winning streak. Leipzig actually only conceded 1 goal in their last 4 games before a meeting between us. This is a good test for both teams. As the commentators mentioned, it's a measuring stick to see where both teams are at, where they're both at currently for their competitions, because they both kind of going through, I don't know if Leipzig is really much of a rebuild, but they've lost a lot of big players in their team. Dortmund, of course, as well, kind of struggling to find an identity, both of those teams. Maybe so more Leipzig than Dortmund at the moment. But again, a good test for both. And yeah, we'll get into it more, but a little bit more rotation. Schlotterbeck comes back in. He's actually wearing the captain's armband, and he wore it really well. I think he's definitely going to be one of the faces of the club going forward as a captain, as one of the higher earners. Reports are looking at an extension here for Schlotterbeck, hopefully soon. Kuto back in the lineup, and he gets a goal here. So the wingbacks remaining involved at their goal contributions. Lots of positives to take away here, of course, despite the results. But yeah, we'll get into it more here.
I was going to talk, I know this was later in the game, but we get that late corner, and Schlotterbeck is going to take it. And you just see the whole corner starts to, everyone on the side, not the yellow wall who's already standing, but everyone on the side just starts standing up, because you have a quick flashback to the 2 corner assists that he had last season, which was just incredible. And then it ended up being a bit of a dud of a corner, but that was fun to see, and just kind of a nice, oh my gosh, what's going to happen on this corner right here. But yeah, good to see him have the captain's armband. And we talked a lot about captaincy, I think, last year, and that kind of the armband jumping around a lot. Yeah. That might still be the case, and that's, I guess, totally fine. I like him having the captain's armband. He's so vocal, and he's such a leader on the pitch. So yeah, I'm excited for him, and hopefully he can keep wearing it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it hops around a little bit, but he's definitely a leader with or without that. But yeah, we do. So starting this match, we do go down pretty early with Leipzig. Baumgartel scoring in the 7th minute.
Yeah, and Baumgartner gave us a headache all goddamn day.
God,
He was
he could have won it at the end too.
Yeah, no, he was heavily involved across the match. You know, he had 3 shots. All of them looked very, very dangerous. And like you just mentioned, could have easily scored here at the end. Our press during transitions this whole game wasn't really as efficient as it should be and what we've seen in the past, leaving players with time and space to pick out some passes into space behind our back line, you know, giving them chances to find the direct and central routes to goal. Leipzig actually scored 2 other goals that were obviously eventually called offside in those instances. But, you know, the alarm bells were ringing sometimes. And Dortmund, you know, they pulled back and they also had some great spells of possession and stretches where they looked just as dangerous as well. So it was kind of back and forth. It was high intensity, some good pace of the game at times. But it's just disappointing in the end that we can't beat these losers and keep pace with the rampant Bayern Munich at right now, because that's where we're going next after this international break. And that's a team that's flying at the moment. And again, Leipzig and Dortmund both came into this game with winning streaks behind them, but you just have to keep pace with Bayern. You have to beat these teams if you want to keep pace with Bayern in a season like this.
Yeah, and especially this being the home match, right? Like you would take a point away at Leipzig, like we've tended gotten our pants pulled down over the last few years against them. So, I mean, I would want to beat them. I'm not saying I'm happy with the draw, but like what Leipzig has done to us in more recent years. Like I just always have a bad taste in my mouth when we have to play them because it hasn't always gone that well. But that's why I say like it's kind of felt more like a good result, and because we didn't have that like collapse moment. And as I was watching this, like there were moments where I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose this game. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we definitely should have won this game. I think it was probably a great game to watch if you're a neutral fan. It was so back and forth. And in the second half, Leipzig started real strong. And I was like, there's no way we're going to be able to. And then we were able to bounce back. And like, I think possession was 50-50, like literally right down the middle. Shots were pretty close to similar. Like all the stats were pretty even. So that's why I said earlier, maybe a 1-1 draw is a fair result, but I wish like we had our chances at the end. They also had chances at the end. Of course, I wish we would have been able to pull it out. I think Fabio Silva could have done better. He had that chance with the nice little flick over the top, and he kind of chooses to try to hold back the defender. And in that moment, I'm like, even when they showed the replays, like, dude, you're 5 feet from the goal. You just got to get your foot on it. You just got to put it in instead of like, don't try to hold back that dude. Like, I mean, I'm not a professional soccer player. What do I know? But I think you got to run forward. Why are you stopping yourself? Like run forward, get your foot on the ball. Carver's the coach, so Carver can tell me what players should do in this situation. But
no, I think you're hitting it on
that was the chance.
Yeah. And Schlotterbeck mentioned that actually on Sky after the game, just kind of mentioning like if Fabio gets that final touch, we score and we're happy, but we're missing that lucky punch. And then he said, now we got a point against Leipzig, which isn't bad, but it's not what we wanted either. And like you mentioned, especially at home, you just have to get all 3 points. And a factor that we haven't mentioned yet that is obviously something that needs to be considered as well is Dortmund have had midweek football these past few weeks and Leipzig has not. And, you know, there's been lots of rotation, but also we're getting some players back up to speed and we've expended a lot of energy in these midweek games these past few weeks as well. So players, you know, getting 90 minutes under their belts and then just a few days time going against a team like Leipzig, there's obviously going to be some tired legs and a little bit of mental fatigue as well, which can make the difference in those really small moments. And that's kind of what we saw in this game as well. But in the end, it's kind of deservedly a draw for both teams. Unfortunately, it sucks again that we are not getting the result that we need, but we didn't concede too much. Again, there were some things that we mentioned with the pressing that I think could be better, the organization. So there's not as much space to exploit behind the back line for Leipzig. But in the end, we're still not really conceding too much against teams of this kind of quality, which is a really good sign. And I think this is going to be obviously a much bigger test away in Munich this coming weekend, but after the international break. And that'll give us a really good understanding of where we're at once players come back from the break.
Yeah, before we talk about Der Klassiker, if we're allowed to call it that again. I mean, Dortmund's second in the table, so I think going into this we can call it that. I know a lot of people think we don't have the rights to call it Der Klassiker anymore, but given the table, we can call it that. We will talk about that a little bit more, but first, do you want to give us the BVB Frauen update you've got?
Yeah, sure. So I didn't mention this on the last episode, and I should have, and I know I previewed it beforehand, but there was, of course, the first ever meeting between Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich, the women teams, for the DFB Pokal. That was on September 29th. Historic evening. It was live streamed on YouTube. A lot of people obviously watched it online, including myself. We had a channel dedicated to it in our Discord. But the tens of thousands in the attendance and completely packing out the Rote Erde right across from the Westfalenstadion as well. First ever meeting between the two, and it was just a really, really special moment. And of course, we didn't get the results. We were knocked out and had an early bow out of the Pokal. It's a really, really cool thing to witness. And of course, against arguably the best team in women's football right now, against Dortmund, team that's in the third division, still trying to find themselves here in this higher level. A 2-0 is not terrible. Really, yeah. It's really not. And a lot of people involved, whether it was the coach, the department heads for the women's team, they're all mentioning the same thing. Dortmund were fearless to start. Their defending and tackling was aggressive. They played with conviction, lots of runs, lots of sprints, that we were able to actually find space in behind on our counterattacks. But just the overwhelming quality of the team like Bayern Munich, it was just in the end a little bit too much for us. And it was the first defeat on home soil for the women's team. But it's something to be proud of. Again, the result, it really wasn't that terrible. And we're going to march onward. I have a quote here from the coach, Marcus Hogner, who mentioned, we actually performed very well over these 90 minutes. In the first 20 or 25 minutes, we were maybe a bit too timid and had too much respect. However, you also have to say that Bayern played very well and with a lot of movement off the ball, and they played strong going forward. But as the first half progressed, we gained more control, and our clear goal at halftime was to keep a clean sheet in the second half, and we achieved that. So again, a lot of positive takeaways for that game, and a historic night to really be proud of as a supporter in general. But looking back after this Munich game, so just the few recent fixtures to catch you up to speed, bounced right back with a 9-0 win against last place in their division right now, Mars. Completely butchered that, but you can go ahead and look that up more on their website. And then after that, Dortmund drew away to Bielefeld in a 1-1. So right now in their division, Dortmund are 4-1-2 with 2 losses. One of those losses are actually currently under review as Dortmund are appealing, as they won that game against Dutz 05, but they had an invalid roster submission, and that costed them a disqualification. So they're currently appealing that right now, because if they would be 5-1-1. And then if you look forward here, Sunday, October 12th, Borussia Dortmund are back in their division against DJK Wacker Mecklenbeck. Probably butchered that one too. But either way, we have some regular division football here for Dortmund, and they're still kind of in the top 4 as well. It's pretty tight. Only 3 points separate first and 6th in their division. But either way, 22 goals scored, 7 goals conceded, and a lot of positives to take away from just these past few weeks. So make sure to keep an eye out for BVB Frauen.
Yeah, and I haven't plugged it yet. So if you just want to, I don't want to say, if you just want to know what's going on, get a little more updates with the BVB Frauen, maybe you can't commit to adding another soccer team to watch every weekend. I feel like I struggle with that. I just told Carver before we recorded, I just watched the second half of the Dortmund match. I was finally able to catch up and watch that. But if you just want to know what's going on, because as we've said time and time again, as they climb the ranks, as this team just keeps building year after year and after year, it's just the competition gets more competitive and even more fun to watch. And that Bayern game is like such an amazing example of one, just the growth of this team. And when you think a few years ago when they were just a brand new club in the 7th division, and now they're playing Bayern, who are still quite a bit ahead of them, and to, like you said, just have a good strong showing and only losing 2-0 is pretty amazing.
We've been covering the women's team.
What I was getting at is,
go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you just want to know what's going on, we try to give updates most episodes here, but join our Discord, because not only you can know what's going on there, but you can get connected with fellow Dortmund fans whether you're in the States or overseas or wherever you are, we got people from everywhere in there, and it's a really cool community. So I hit it all the time, but it's because it is a really great thing, and I don't even check Twitter anymore because just get all my news and info and interaction in our Discord, which is great. Yeah, what were you going to say?
We've been covering the women's team as long as we've had a show, really. I mean, 4 years now.
Yeah, first year.
And it's surreal to now see the meeting finally after 4 years coming to a head of Dortmund and Bayern Munich. And we're going to see a lot more of those in the future whenever we are in the Bundesliga. When I say we, I'm now the women's team is in the Bundesliga. I'll save the we for the men's. Either way, very, very proud of them, the coaching staff, the support from the fans, of course, as well, and just in that community. Let's keep lifting them up. It's very cool to see.
All right, probably said it, but just one more time. When their next match, are they playing?
October 12th, this Sunday.
October 12th. Perfect. We got an international break with the men. You need to watch some football. You probably don't want to watch international football because it's not always that exciting. You can watch BVB Frauen this weekend. Again, join the Discord for more information, and we'll have that in the description of this episode too. Now let's look ahead to when we are back from international break. We love playing Bayern Munich when we get back from international break. They're flying right now. Kane has like 11 goals. Luis Diaz, who they signed from Liverpool, flying on the left side. If you pull up their FOTMOB, pretty much everyone in their normal starting 11 is just like rated really high. They're
scored
flying.
25 goals in 6 games, which is truly ludicrous. Almost just equally as ludicrous as that. They've only conceded 3. So very, very strong offensively and strong defensively as well. So it's going to be really, really tough. However, all that being said, and I've said this, anyone that's been, tuned into the show for some time now, there's been like a psychological barrier for us going to Bayern for several years now of getting any sort of result, let alone not collapsing in the first 15 to 20 minutes. And these past few times that we have gone to Munich, we've turned that around. I mean, we drew last time we were in Munich. And then before that, we actually won. So there's some positives that build off there. And you have the block broken. And I think that's actually going to do a lot for these players, especially under someone who's a little bit more militaristic like Kovac. I think he's got a solid game plan that's worked a lot against a lot of these teams so far. Of course, Bayern are a different level of quality, but I'm hoping we can at least make a competitive game out of it. If we can leave there with a point, great. If we can leave there with 3 points, even better. But I'm hoping we can actually still, again, make a competitive run at this and hopefully leave with some sort of result.
Yeah, this could be a great time for Harry Kane to get just like an ankle flare up on international duty. That'd be just fantastic. They got other threats too, though.
Sure. Yeah. It's very spread across the board.
So the match is Saturday, October 18th at 12:30 Eastern Time, 11:30 if you're Central with Carver and I, and then I guess 9:30 a.m. if you're out on the West Coast. This is where I'm going to hammer the Discord again because this is the match where everyone seems to come out, and we see we're pretty connected with a lot of the BVB supporters groups in the States especially, but this is where Dortmund's going to hype it up on their social channels. They're going to blast out where all the watch parties are happening. Carver and I, both in St. Louis, I haven't checked in with you yet, and I haven't really thought about it until right now, this moment, but I should probably go to Amsterdam. I haven't been there yet this season, so it seems like a good time to go to Amsterdam. Is that your plan?
It is my plan, yep.
Cool. And then I know they're in DC with the guys who go to Across the Pond. KC, where do they go? KC Beer Co., I think, is where they watch. I shouldn't have started this because I won't be able to name everybody in every single location.
Yeah, you're going to have to hit all. There's dozens of them, Jacob. Here we go.
But I know we got Miami. I know we got Cincinnati. We got Orange County. We got LA. We got
Nashville,
Cascadia, the guys in Nashville. And yeah, we got people everywhere, and there's going to be a watch party. So if you're listening in any of those areas and you're like, maybe this is a good time to go meet some fellow Dortmund fans in real life, not just this digital thing that you're listening or watching on social, but if you want to go meet some people for real and have a really awesome Dortmund experience, however the result on the field goes, it's always a great time when you're hanging with some Dortmund fans. Make sure you can reach out to us directly or just get involved in the Discord. We'll be posting where all the watch parties are. And I'm sure you can find one in your area if you're not in a place where I listed. Like I said, there's a lot more that I'm not going to be able to rattle off, but we can help get you connected. So join our Discord if you haven't already, and then go meet some other Dortmund fans in person for Der Klassiker here in a little over a week. I think that's all I got. Carver, you got anything else?
That's it. Yeah, thank you again for tuning in. As always, feel free to give us a rating on whatever platform you're listening on. That would be very helpful. Let us know your thoughts. Send us an email if you have any questions, comments, whatever. And yeah, appreciate you tuning in.
Yep. Appreciate you guys hanging out and listening. And we will be back sometime after the international break. We'll see you guys later.